Hello everyone, and welcome to our meditation, beginning of the week, and continuing in this series for this year on Samadhi and Insight. And for this meditation, I want to evoke a image from my son's kindergarten class it was, that every day when he came to class, we would bring him to school and bring him to the door of the classroom. And the teacher would be standing there in front of the door, the open door, and standing there in I would say, a kind of a dignified way, a kind of a kind way, clear way, a way that felt like the teacher was fully there for what was coming and ready to receive, but also not, but also very competent, very calm and clear and organized and ready for anything. And the teacher would stand there in front of the door, right next to the front of the door, and every kindergarten kid who came in, the teacher would greet very nicely. I forget if the teacher shook their hand or how exactly the greeting went, but every kid every day would be greeted with this very clear way from the teacher. And so samadhi is what allows us to be stable, strong, clear, organized in a certain way, settled on ourselves, so that whatever experience comes our way, we can greet in the same way. Whatever comes our way, we can see it clearly. We're not pushed around by it. We're not caught in it. We're not defined by it. But we're just there with it, because with this feeling of rootedness, this feeling of being complete, whole, here, so that each thing that comes our way can be seen, greeted, respected for what it is, and there's room in the classroom for it. It's just one seat in the class. It's not the whole world. It's just this thing here now. So this applies to suffering. One of the purposes of samadhi is so that we are not defined by our suffering. One of the purposes of insight, of mindfulness, is so we can know something and not be defined by it, not be pushed around by it. But we're there to know our suffering, to greet it with respect, with clarity, with rootedness, not being defined by it, but ready to be respectful for each act of suffering. So suffering doesn't become the whole world. Suffering doesn't become something to reject or to be frightened by, but something that we can see clearly, so clearly that we see that it's just a piece of the bigger picture of life. It can be big and monumental, but it's still just one piece. There's more. And samadhi provides the more, the stability, the wholeness, the calm. And insight provides the more, the knowing that is not making it into everything. And there's what's known and the knowing of it. And as soon as we see the difference between what's known and what's known and the knowing of it, we start to become free and respectful. We become that teacher in the classroom door that's ready to greet everything respectfully. And so suffering is known. Suffering happens within a wholeness of experience. We're rooted here to know it. And we start seeing that suffering, like everything else, is part of the river of change. Imagine. So, assuming a meditation posture, a posture for being rooted, stable, on whatever surface holds the weight of your body up. A chair, the floor, a bed, whatever it might be. And to feel how the weight of your body settles on the surface that holds it up, the surface in which your weight meets the pull of gravity. And as you exhale, allow yourself to settle in to the meeting of your weight and the pull of gravity against that surface. Maybe making small adjustments. So it's more comfortable, more rooted here. And then arising from that stable, rooted contact, feel the rest of your body. How the weight of your body moves through your torso, and if you feel any weight that exists there because of the pull of gravity, as you exhale, relax into that pull. Let your weight settle. Almost without trying or doing anything, allow your inhale to be fuller, to expand more fully through your torso, your rib cage. Not so much making yourself breathe deeper, but yielding to the in-breath. And then yielding to the exhale. So the exhale is more extended. And as you exhale, relaxing your whole body, a kind of yielding to the pull of gravity, yielding to the desire for tension to unwind. And then letting your breathing return to normal. And now with the inhale, feel any tension, pressure, forcefulness that might be in the thinking mind. As you exhale, soften the thinking mind. Ever so gently, quiet the thinking voice, or slow down the images of thoughts. Rather than living in thoughts, let thinking exist within a wider field of calm spaciousness. And settling into the body's experience of breathing. Without making a lot of effort or any effort at all. See if you can recognize there is the experience of breathing and there's the knowing of it. The knowing of it could be verbal, it can be non-verbal, very simple, uncomplicated knowing of that you're breathing in, breathing out. And knowing that's part of being rooted, stable here in this body, here and now. And if, as you're sitting here, there's anything that might be called suffering, stress, emotional discomfort, feel the experience from a rooted, respectful place. Know it, where the knowing is clear, free of what is known, like a teacher knowing each student coming to the door. The teacher rooted, clear, fully here, knowing the student clearly, respectfully, but not losing the calm, steady clarity that the teacher wants to convey to the students. see if you can avoid being defined by your suffering. Let it be part of the larger experience of now. One more thing to know, to greet, and to be ready for the next experience. To be with that. Watching the smallest movements of the mind, to be sensitive to how there might be stress, de-stress, in the mind. And rather than ignoring it because it's subtle or big, think of yourself standing at the door of the classroom, greeting it while being calm, rooted, clear, where suffering and stress is simply one more thing to greet, nothing more, nothing less, nothing to get involved in. as we come to the end of this sitting, to feel whatever degree of stability, calm, centeredness might be here in the present moment with your body. And imagine meeting the people of the day, going through the experiences of the next 24 hours, greeting each thing as one more thing to greet from a place of stability and clarity, and openness, to know each thing without being defined by it, pushed around by it, caught in it, just to stand and be present. And just maybe that will allow goodwill to be part of your attitude. A field of goodwill, an attitude of goodwill towards yourself, towards others, towards the whole world. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And may my samadhi and insight support me to offer this gift to all beings. Thank you. So welcome to beginning of the week as we continue this series on insight and the three insights that are core to the insight meditation practice is having this deep observation, this deep clarity, deep recognition of change, of stress, and of non-identification. And I choose those words carefully as an alternative to some of the usual ways of talking about these three characteristics, three insights, recognitions that we have. And the focus currently is the second one, dukkha, the deep recognition, the capacity to recognize to perceive, to know suffering, stress, de-stress, in such a way that we find our freedom in it. We find ways in which we can grow spiritually and develop ourselves. Rather than being overwhelmed by suffering, finding a natural way in which the heart, the mind, the inner life can grow and develop into greater clarity, greater calm, greater care, love, a greater kind of a sense of wholeness by how we recognize how we're present for the suffering of our life. And this, of course, is not easy, and this is why now we're on this, we've done 6 months already now on samadhi and insight to prepare the ground for a deep, useful way of engaging with suffering. And this long preparation is a way of having a deep respect of suffering, the challenges of it, the difficulty of being with it, but also the opportunities, the richness that's possible by bringing this practice into the middle of it. There is a teaching that goes back to the earliest time of Buddhism that says there are 3 types of dukkha. The word, now in the Pali, the ancient language, the word is dukkha, D-U-K-K-H-A, and it's usually translated as suffering, but in its core it means pain, just or strong discomfort or pain that can be physical, but it could also be emotional, and it could also be quite deeply embodied or rooted in us to become kind of the core operating principle from which, not operating principle, but the core fuel for how we operate. We're reacting and adjusting and to our deep suffering in how we see the world, how we see ourselves, how we engage in the world. So the tradition talks about 3 types of dukkha. And sometimes it's helpful to distinguish these 3 different types. And in a sense, there's many, many characteristics of our suffering. There's many kinds of suffering, many ways of understanding it and recognizing it. And different teachers will emphasize different parts. Buddhists have been addressing this issue of dukkha, of suffering, for 2,500 years. So you can imagine that over time, things have shifted and there's been different interpretations, different recognitions, different ways of working with it, different emphasis that goes on. And so if you go through to the history of Buddhist teachings, and even in the modern world, listen to different teachers in different Theravada traditions, teachers in Burma, teachers in Thailand, teachers in America, you'll find different teachers emphasizing different aspects of dukkha. And so it isn't that they're contradicting themselves, each other, but it's that there are just so many different ways of looking at it. And the task is to find out how it's useful for you to see it so that you find yourself not caught in it, not entangled with it, not being undermined or deflated or overwhelmed by it. So there are these 3 kinds of dukkha, and or 3 kinds of pain. There is pain, dukkha, it's literally called. There is the dukkha of change, and there is the dukkha of mental constructs. So the first one is just straightforward, uncomplicated physical pain that can be mild and it can be overwhelming. But it's not there because of our psychology. It's not there because of psychological reactions, clinging. It's not there because we're caught in attachments. It's there because it's just straightforward physical pain. And And for that, we need to have a wisdom. We have to have wisdom to know how to manage it. And we have a lot more ways of managing physical pain in the modern world than they had in the ancient world, where the Buddha, he used the power of his mind in order to deal with his intense pain as an old man. And he would go into deep states of concentration. He said sometimes that's the only time he got relief from his old age pain that he had in the last years of his life. But to be wise about it. And one way to be wise is not to feel that we have to always endure it, or that we should always use our practice to find our freedom from it or relief from it. Sometimes we need medication, sometimes we need medical care, all kinds of things that are useful. But not to see it as a personal fault, not to see dukkha as something that we need to somehow criticize ourselves for having, but it's something that we need to be wise about how to live with and handle and find our way with. The second is the suffering of change. And here the assumption is that change isn't always welcome, and or that we want change in a way that's not happening. Change is happening different than how we want it. And so, and even if change happens in the direction we want, either way, there can be attachment, there's clinging. And there's the suffering of clinging to something and then having it change and go away. And then that clinging then feels frustrated, feels distraught. And so there's a kind of suffering. So the suffering of change also requires wisdom, but to some degree it requires the wisdom of acceptance. That to some degree, human life, in order to find some way to live at peace, at calm and steady, to be wise, we have to accept the fact that things change. We get old, we get sick, we'll die. Other people get old, they get sick, they die. The things of our life shift and change in ways that we don't want, but still they change. There can be natural disasters that happen in your town, in your neighborhood, and that's a change. And so to be able to somehow navigate the change with ease, with calm, without the attachments being a wind drag, without being protesting against the very nature of change, which is inherent in this natural world that we're part of. Things are always changing. And of course, we can have some role in changing things in the right direction. Of course, we can have some role in keeping certain things the way they are for a while. We can let our cars last longer by changing the oil, or being careful how we drive or something. But we want to be caring and careful, but not be attached. And so the suffering of change is when we somehow haven't accepted change as a given and find a wise way to navigate with it. So a deep acceptance, no protests against the natural movements of change. And the third, the one that's really core to Buddhism, is the suffering of the mental formations. This is the suffering of craving itself, the suffering of attachment, the suffering of the way that the mind engages in things where there is suffering, tightness, stress, clinging, resistance, pressure, irritation, annoyance, built into the very ways in which we engage, relate to what's happening in this world. And here is what the practice has the most power to work with. Here we're learning not to accept things, but we're learning to, or finding a way to have a deep letting go, a deep relaxing of this added addition on top of our life that we contribute, which is we contribute clinging, we contribute grasping, craving, resistance, animosity, hatred, greed, jealousy, envy, covetousness, um, all kinds of things that we add, that all of them that are characterized by tension, stress, a tightening, a pressure that feels very uncomfortable. And so the suffering of mental formations is a suffering which is inherent in the movement of attachment, in all its different flavors and forms. And it turns out that this is the attachment that is most deep inside of us. That maybe is, for some people, is right there at the core operating principle from which they live and understand themselves and define themselves. And this is the one that we want to be able to see with tremendous clarity, with a mind that's very calm, still, quiet, rooted, that's part of the whole. This is the function of insight supported by samadhi, is to be able to get such a feeling of centered, calm, a sense of well-being, that we can see some of the deepest places of suffering where we're holding on tight. And that is one of the great, wonderful, maybe you can call it paradoxes of this practice. That the deepest suffering we have, we want to prepare ourselves to meet that by cultivating a good amount of settled, calm well-being. That our sense of well-being, sense of joy or happiness that can come with samadhi and insight, that becomes the field within which we're ready to encounter some of the deepest holding, clinging patterns in our life. And so, so this is the path of preparation, of being wise, not to address things directly and force our way into a peaceful state, but we prepare ourselves, create the conditions so that we can be present for the deepest clingings we have in a way that allows for the deepest letting go of that kind of mental constructs that involve clinging, attachment. So 3 kinds of dukkha. Dukkha dukkha, the dukkha of change, and the dukkha of mental formations. And each of them requires a different kind of wisdom, a different approach, and so it's not just one way to be with suffering. We have to have some wisdom and understanding of which ones we're working with. So thank you, and in this process, may you suffer in a way that supports you to reach the end of suffering. Thank you.